they keep this facility incredibly cold, and so the name that this is referred to is La Hielera, which means the freezer. So what people will tell you, where was I? You all have asked me that question a lot. Where are they coming from? What people tell me, where were you? I was at La Hielera. Then we know they're just coming from Ursula. So when we get there and we turn off the engines, you're going to hear the air conditioners running. But all of this is fenced in. These people are here inside of this warehouse. Those cages are inside of that central building. There are no showers in there. They are not allowed to take a shower. Nothing like that. Nothing at all like that. And then you can start to see every once in a while, you'll be lucky and you'll see these gates opening. There is actually a picture on one of your things that has the gates open so you can see a little bit better into it. Then you're going to turn to your right here and you'll see the front of the building.
That's the bus. We're not sure if people are going in, coming out, anything.
Harris County, Texas, which is the third largest county in the nation, the size of Colorado in population. We have 4 family detention centers, and they're trying to open a detention center for little children, for children of tender age, right here in this county.
What crime have they done, those kids?
No crime. Everybody knows, deep in our hearts that children should not be separated from their parents under any circumstances.
Okay.
And it's incumbent upon our leaders and our community to stand up for our values as humans and as family people, and that's why we see all our community here standing up.
In early August, a group of grandmothers calling themselves the Grannies Respond Caravan made a cross-country trip to the U.S.-Mexico border, calling attention to Trump's inhumane policy of separating babies and children from their parents. I picked up the caravan in Montgomery, Alabama.
Okay, and Lynn, why are you doing this?
Oh, there's so many reasons to be doing this. Because these children and these families are being torn apart, and it's just immoral. We don't use children as political pawns. So it feels like we need to do something. And as citizens, it feels like it's my responsibility to speak out. As a mother and as a grandmother, it tears me apart. It's just wrong.
Our goal is to shine a light on this horrid mess, to look into the shadows of what is going on and say, look, America, this is what your government is doing in your name. I don't agree with it. I don't think a lot of people agree with this. And we need to keep shining the light on this because the policy has not stopped. The children have not gone home. The families are not reunited. And today the government said, well, that's not our job.
And so, when you put your children or your grandchildren's faces on these children, then that makes it like your own child. It's not someone else's. Like the candidate was saying, if it's your child, a lot of people feel, they would move mountains. And it's an emotional response. I mean, if you put your own children, this is what it's about in my mind. This is about compassion. I like to say, I don't think this needs to be a political issue. It doesn't have to be Republican versus Democrat or liberal versus conservative. With all people of all parties and sort of religious proclivities can have compassion, but they need to stop and think, and maybe they need to put their own children's faces on this for it to really grab them.
When the grandmothers arrived, they found a dire situation, with refugees constantly arriving and many camped out on bridges.
Now what's happening is they're just putting everybody in detention, so the jails and everything are full, and so now other people coming in can't come in. They're trapped on the bridge. And they have to wait for maybe days and weeks in 105-degree temperatures and, rainstorms, and they may not have food and water, and they've got little babies that are getting sick being in all of this. Trump's trying to make it very difficult or impossible for people to come in.
If asylum seekers are lucky enough to get in, they are distributed to detention centers throughout the U.S. Bail is almost unreachable, and proof of fear is very difficult to argue.
But here they've got it really worked out where you cannot go through there, or they can't come through here without the proper documentation. And if you come over and don't have it, then that's when these guys get taken to the detention centers and have to go through the process of being released, which can be very, very costly, because they all have to hire an attorney.
The Rio Grande Valley is mostly people who are of Mexican descent. They said, this used to be Mexico, and the border, y'all moved the border over us. So lots of them have been there for generations, and most of the people down there are Hispanic in the Rio Grande Valley. I mean, there's, Caucasian people down there too, and most of the people are bilingual. And I saw no crime in the border cities. I felt very safe down there. It is very safe down there. I'm told on the other side it's not safe, where these people are waiting to come in. That's not safe. But from what I saw, the people that live in those border cities, they are not afraid of the immigrants. And there's lots of help from the churches, the nuns, the lawyers, the relief workers, the aid workers. They're all trying to help these people that may not speak English. So it's the people in the border towns and others around the United States has come down there to help these people that are being abused and traumatized by his policies.
Hi, we're the angry tias and abuelas of the RGV.
I'm Joyce, and this all started June 4th or 5th, very early June, when we learned that there were people camped out on our bridges, our international bridges, in Reynosa in particular, and 5 of us decided when we learned that we needed to pack up water and supplies and food and go see for ourselves what was needed. We did discover 40 people from Honduras and Cuba and Guatemala, mostly Honduras and Cuba, who were there on the bridge, families with children, and they were definitely needing help. Some of them had been there for 4 or 5 days, sleeping on the bridge, and were wearing the same clothes they had had on for 2 weeks or longer, 3 weeks in some cases. So we asked what they needed, we gave them what we had, and we knew we needed to go back. And that was the beginning of this process. Since then, the needs have grown. We formed a very small grassroots group at that point.
The nuns there, the Sisters of Divinity, have what they call the respite house, which is very close to the bus station, and it's a walking distance from the bus station, and they come there, and we were able to go down there and have like a little vigil with them. But there was still a large group that was, I guess, going to leave the next day, that we were able to mingle with and talk to, and we sang songs and talked to them, and some of them were sort of leery, and others were happy, some were depressed. I mean, it was just a mix of emotion.
So between May 24th and June 21st, we talked to 382 parents who had been separated from their children.
Wow.
And we only covered the city of McAllen. That's a small fraction of the close to 3,000 that were separated. But for these 382, we have their names, their children's names, date of birth, so we can track them and make sure that the government is in fact reuniting them. Whereas for all the others, we don't have their names, we don't know where they are, and there's no way for us to look for them.
My name is Luis. I've been volunteer for 6 years already. I try to be there 24/7, but I can't, you know. I show the people that come from Salvador, Guatemala, you name it. I help them out. If they drop them off at the bus station, I show them how to get in the bus. If they don't have their tickets, we send them to the church. They make phone calls to their parents or family members, try to get their tickets as fast as they can, where they could go where all people are going. California, New York, Washington, Boston. Some go to San Antonio, Houston, Dallas. I make sure get them in the right bus. You know, I'm good at it. You know.
They're escaping violence. They're escaping being kidnapped. They start dropping off the individuals after 8 o'clock, and so sometimes they don't get to leave tonight. They won't leave till tomorrow, and so they don't have a place to stay because the bus station closes at 11 p.m. If we're not there, who's gonna help? And so sometimes you get that energy because you know that there might not be anybody here. And so that motivates all of us to come out here every night and help, yeah.
The one thing that I do recall that was really very interesting for me was to go to La Pasita, which is a shelter and a house where people that have been released from detention come to get a shower, to get clothes, to spend a day, spend a year, whatever it takes for them to get their documents to be able to travel. There, while we were there, were 5 different detainees who had been released, who were waiting to be to go to their designated destination. So that was good to be able to see and talk to them. I have never had much contact with any of the women in my experience with detainees. So there was a young woman there with her little boy from Ghana, and there was another woman with her little boy from Guatemala, and they experienced much the same as what these guys did as far as going through the jungles and the desert and being picked up and detained.
So what can we do to help these people? First, we just need to talk about it.
Hi.
Hi.
What's your name?
My name's Frida.
Okay, terrific.
I'm here on the Grannies Respond Caravan to, just stand up for what's right and just to make change, because that's important. And I am challenging people younger and people my age to find any elder, possibly in your family, like your grandma, grandpa, or honestly anyone who has, and just talk about what's happening. It's important to talk about what's happening now because there are people suffering, and it's not right to sit down and not do anything about it.
We can call our representatives. We can donate money, food, and supplies. We can join the above ground railroad.
We've been asked to maybe help with what they call an above ground railroad, that as people leave the centers, the detention centers, and they're sent out on buses with a backpack and food and water, there's somebody to greet them when they come to my city, Philadelphia, or a place in Florida or Washington, D.C., at the train station, at the bus station, to give them directions, little food, help them get to their next spot.
We can march. We can rally.
Now we're standing on federal property, right? Yes! Who pays for this federal property? Yes! So, as much as I respect law enforcement, they might want to listen to their bosses. That's right! So here's what we're going to do. We're going to occupy our space in front of our courthouse. and you're going to protect and serve us. Not Sessions, not Trump, or not any other elected official, because you work for the people. The people united will never be divided.
We can participate in civil disobedience.
Let me say one last thing. We're having a nice get-together in the middle of the street in front of the federal courthouse. If our elected officials don't do something, we're going to have a nice rally inside of the federal courthouse. At every single hearing, at every single attempted deportation, because this is a country of immigrants. Whether you came freely on a boat or you came in the belly of a boat. And we're not going to sit back while you have children in cages. You all heard the cries. You heard the tears of those babies. So don't be fooled that 45 and his minions are behind this.
My name is Medea Benjamin. I'm with the Peace Group Code Pink. And going tonight reminded me of the years that I worked in the 70s, late 70s and the 80s in Central America. And all the U.S. militarism, all the guns, all the weapons we sent to Central America, all the policies of militarism around the world, both from the U.S. and other places, that cause so much of the refugee problem. And so as we think of changing our government in November, let's also think of the issue of militarism and how we have got to change from a war economy, because our entire economy benefits from the wars that create refugees, into a peace economy. Thank you.
Do you think our borders should be open?
I don't think that's the question here. I think that we can have a debate about immigration policy in a rational manner, in a way that we are supposed to have these kinds of debates where they're established as policy and they pass through our Congress and our courts and everything. We can disagree about borders. We can have a good American discussion, etc. But what we are concerned about is not whether the borders are open or closed, whether people are legitimate or illegitimate. We are concerned that our government has ripped children away from their parents, has put them into abusive group care environments, and is not reuniting them.
I think what the Grannies Respond did was wonderful. I just hope they can keep up the momentum, because I think they are a great voice. I mean, you just can't go and leave and just, you really have to get involved. And that's my plea, is for all of these grandmothers to really get involved and do what it takes to not let this thing die. I mean, we have to keep it alive because it is so real. And it's so inhumane how these guys are treated, and the court system there's just no justice. The bail is just ridiculous. I mean, nobody ever gets out on a bond for less than maybe $5,000. I mean, Amdadul, one guy, $25,000 his family had to come up with. And I mean, I've heard of even greater bonds than that, but it's, we got to get the system changed.